Good evening, members and guests. We encourage questions after the presentation, and we'd appreciate it if you want to ask a question. We also would like for you to come up to the mic, and so we can record the question and the answers. And we do a pretty good job of getting that done officially and professionally, for that matter. Most of you all obviously know Mr. Mark Pope. Mark is a candidate for the Lafayette City Parish Council. He is a lifelong Lafayette resident who moved to Lafayette from New Orleans with his family at 7 years old. Mark was educated in public schools in Lafayette and later graduated from UL in a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in public relations. He retired from Lafayette Consolidated Government 2 years ago after serving in the environmental division for 27 years. Mark has worked at KPEL Radio in Lafayette for 30 years, where he is currently employed, and does everything from hosting talk shows to producing live radio and producing commercials and public service announcements. Mark also does contract reporting for the Associated Press Louisiana division, which has done since 1993, and we're proud to have him here this evening as our guest speaker. Mark, thanks for being here. Thank you, Carol.
So, greetings everybody. Thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. And supporters, Rusty, Leslie, Carol, I'm going to miss Josh, Ken. I'm going to miss some folks with names, but I appreciate you being here. So, as Carol said, I am Mark Pope. I have to say it. I get asked pretty regularly. No relation to Brian Pope. So tonight's class is right here. This is show and tell, but I have a lot to say. I really do. I really do. So I'm going to ask for your attention. What some people might say is he was negative. No, this is my stance. Why am I running for Lafayette City Parish Council, Lafayette City Council? I don't know. I don't know which council I'm running for. I'm running. You can book it. Why? We need to change Lafayette, Louisiana. We need to change our government.
Improve it. Need to improve it.
That is correct, Ray. So, why am I running? Well, that's why I'm running. Let me say another thing that I have to tell you right up front. When I was exploring, praying, talking to family, neighbor, friends about do I run, this is what I heard a couple of times. Mark, how can you run for office? How can you get elected and be part of the solution? You're the problem. 27 years in the system? Au contraire, mes amis. I challenged the system my entire time. 27 years in the environmental division. What I did, I'm proud of. Improved recycling, started a chemical collection, regular cleanups. Litter's our biggest problem, environmental problem. You read Plan Lafayette, we'll talk about that later, you'd think something else. So, when I was environmental manager, I had a budget of $15 million. I cut wherever I could. Reasonable, sensible cuts. I was able to cut 2 vacant positions. Nobody got hurt. They were vacant. They were unnecessary, they were redundant. I told my boss, he said, what? What did you just say? And I had to pound the drum over and over and over to make that happen. I tried to cut a 3rd position. It got overturned. Streamlining government seldom happens. Everybody wants to hold their power in their territory. We need conservative-minded people, fiscally conservative-minded people. So, why do I want to change the government and improve it, as Ray says? Thank you, Ray. Always looking out for me. I speak frankly and I speak from the heart. It's up here, I transfer it to here. I'm not going to call names, I'll be civil tonight. This current council is lazy. They do not do their homework. They don't ask tough questions. They're a rubber stamp council. I saw it, 27 years, long time. An inside worker comes and proposes something, usually it's management. Oh, okay, too many questionable things have happened in the last year and a half or two. And we'll kind of talk about those a little bit. Examples, the LUS issue. The council should have rebelled and immediately asked for full disclosure. It drug on far too long. I could tell you the reasons behind that, but I'm not going to do that. Mr. Robideau has said he's not running. So we'll move on from there. Expect some more surprises from behind the curtain. Have you heard about LUS? Mr. Conk wants to pay a firm out of Kansas City $500,000. They're asking to wait to appoint the director of LUS. Why? I can tell you why, because they want to change Lafayette. Mr. Conk is head of the LPUA. Brief overview there. The numerous tax issues we got thrown at us. Most of them failed. No tough questions. Here's what needs to happen. We need to revisit property taxes. They need to be right-sized. You're paying too much here and too little there. Why were they able to take money from the health millage and move it into drainage and the little sneak project, Create? We'll talk a little bit about Create in a bit. Culture, recreation, entertainment. Other things the council have given us in the last couple of years. Values that don't fit our community. I'll leave it at that. You can fill in the blank. You pay attention. Plan Lafayette and the Unified Development Code. You hear from a lot of people, we're going to save the world. Isn't it marvelous? We'll talk more about that too. Plan Lafayette and the Unified Development Code. Here's my first show and tell item. The Lafayette Public Trust Innovation Alliance. Anybody remember this? Attended the meeting, watched it on TV? August 2018. What does this mean? It uses state public trust law. There are 5 unelected people with no accountability. It's stated in this ordinance. They have no accountability. So what can they do? Anything they doggone well please. Buy property, buy buildings, improve garbage, improve utilities, improve water. On and on. There are about 30 nouns and verbs in here as to what they can do. A couple of attorneys here, Josh and Josh. That's not their law firm, by the way. But anything they doggone want to do, including but not limited to. So what happens? How does this public trust work? Mr. Robideau passed it. Our 2 conservatives that are termed off the council asked questions. Tell me about it. All they heard was, again, no tough questions. I think our 2 conservatives are burnt out. I really do. All they were told over and over from Mr. Robideau, from our leadership, it doesn't cost us anything. Oh, really? So let's just say innovation. What can you speculate is going to happen with this? I haven't given you the details of Plan Lafayette. This is my speculation. Lafayette Public Trust Innovation Alliance. They're going to find a building or build a building. They can use eminent domain, by the way. They're going to do mixed use. And I'll tell you, you know what that is? A business on the ground floor, residents living above. It's their pie in the sky dream. That's what downtown Lafayette is right now, okay? So they're either going to find a building, maybe they'll use eminent domain, and they're going to say, hey, all you tech companies, come on, come run it. We got a deal for you. So what happens if they don't get the occupancy they need with the businesses and with the tenants living above in the apartments? They're not getting the revenue they need to pay back the bonds, the tax-free bonds. That's you and me, folks. Who's on the hook? Who pays back? If they're not getting their revenue from their revenue source, who pays back those bonds? We, the taxpayers. Sales tax. So there's a lot to watch out for. This passed in July of 2018. Using other people's money. For what? We got a $40,000 grant to make us our first salvo to make Lafayette, quote, a smart city from the federal government. Wouldn't a smart city be one that has no problems? All the roads are fixed, no more flooding, or the flooding is massively brought under control. We don't have any structurally deficient bridges. Isn't that a smart city? We're going to talk more about smart cities. Smart cities, by the way, run up our cost of living, and they are wasteful, unnecessary government programs. Drainage and flooding, this is where it gets hairy. Ella helped me, and I already knew this. What's the big issue? Anybody throw it out? Is it roads? Is it bridges? Drainage? Drainage. Thank you, Kim. So it's drainage. Let me tell you this, folks. Drainage is an extremely complicated issue. Now let me establish some, I can't say expertise. Let me tell you about my teacher. My teacher was my father, a research scientist, a research paleontologist. He was the senior research geologist at the State Geological Survey. He headed up the first official geologic map of Louisiana. So I have a little bit of knowledge about flooding and surface water. So let's jump into it. Can we improve drainage? You doggone right. It's going to take top priority. It's not that now. This government works reaction by crisis. Reaction by crisis. They are not forward thinking. They are not proactive. Can we solve it? If somebody stands up here and tells you, I'm going to stop all flooding, don't believe them. Here are the issues, folks. Number one, Louisiana and Lafayette, of course, is at or below sea level. We are flat. We have minimal gradient for drainage. We have to create that drainage. We have the second most rainfall in the United States of America. Who's first? Anybody want to guess? Hawaii. Hawaii. So you add up all those factors, and it's a huge challenge right there. Can we make it better? Yes, we can. A lot of people have said dredge the Vermilion. Hydrology is extremely complicated. I'm just going to give you this because I do want to tell you what I've learned over the years. Do I have the answers? Am I coming off as some kind of oracle, some kind of know-it-all? No. I'm just telling you the complexity of what's involved in making drainage much better and getting flooding down to a bare minimum. There are houses being built that shouldn't be built where they're built. That's a reality. How dare I say that? It's true. We have a tough challenge with drainage and flooding. Main thing is all the issues I gave you. We're fighting Mother Nature. Mother Nature always wins. Okay? Think about, let's go to 1927. Well, damn, why is he going back there? Flood of 27, what happened? We built levees and control structures. We lost the flow of fresh water into the Vermilion River. Why were we the most polluted river in the United States of America? Largely because LA Fry pumped their waste in the river, and largely because we pumped not adequately treated sewage into the river. We corrected all that, but one of the big reasons is we didn't have that fresh water flow into the Vermilion. Inner Teche Vermilion Fresh Water Project. Don't think twice that they're not necessary. They pumped fresh water into the Vermilion. Our river was stagnant. It did not have a source of fresh water coming in. The fresh water from the Mississippi was cut off with all the man-made structures, levees, control structures. Here's another thing. We live in a dynamic, ever-changing planet. But what you hear in pop culture and from a lot of the junk science out there, we're presented as a static, unchanging planet. It's not true, folks. Think about it. When you're on I-49 headed to Opelousas, you look down, there's a gully area. What is that? It's the former course of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River ran through Lafayette. And I'm only telling you this, not to impress you with my knowledge, but to let you know it's extremely complicated. We live in the most hydraulically complex states in the United States. We have a lot of work to do. I'm going to say it again. Can we improve drainage? Yes, we can. We have a lot of work to do. Okay, so, and think about it like this. We mentioned the Mississippi, the course of the Mississippi. You know what False River is? It's an oxbow lake. What's an oxbow lake? It's where the Mississippi River used to run. The course of the Mississippi has changed drastically. We don't live on a static planet. Our weather is not static. If you try to control nature, she's going to eventually win. But we have to try if we're going to continue to live here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Think about this. I added this little card right here. Think about this if you don't think the earth changes. Everybody knows the Bonneville salt flats, right? In Salt Lake, a dry, arid area. You ever seen that? It's just a flat bed of salt. You know what that was 30,000 years ago? It was Lake Bonneville. 20,000 square feet of water. A lake. It was 1,000 feet deep. Now here, 30,000 years later, it's gone. Rivers and hydrology changes, and the earth changes. And that's why I call it junk science. You don't hear about history. You hear scare tactics. Might be getting ahead of myself before I get to playing Lafayette and UDC. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, so a little history of Lafayette and Vermilionville, because it's illustrative, it's illustrative of why we have problems with the Vermilion River. You've heard of Vermilionville, right? Early 1800s. Why did it come up around the Pinhook Vermilion River Bridge? Why did Vermilionville pop up there? Because in the era of steamboats, which was the only way to transport goods, you could not get past the Pinhook Bridge. The river was too shallow. Logs were sent down the Mississippi and the Teche. Logs were at the bottom of the river, and they stopped boat traffic. Things changed when the railroad finally came. Oh, and by the way, a lot of times Jean Mouton is attributed with establishing Lafayette. Well, he did, but before that, John and William Reeves started Vermilionville. There was actually a competition. The Reeves donated some land right there at the Pinhook Bridge, and they established a courthouse and a jail. And then here comes Jean Mouton, and he says, no, follow me. And he took the investors to downtown Lafayette. And at the time, it was one of the first significant municipalities not to be farmed and established around a river, because the river had limited value. So do we need to dredge it? I'm going to keep repeating it. Do we need to improve drainage? Yes, we do. We have to make it a priority. It's not a priority now. It's target practice. It's helter-skelter, willy-nilly, because of all their other pet projects. A lot of them unnecessary. We told you about the system, why we stopped getting fresh water down after the flood of 27 and the levees were built. The Vermilion River, by the way, is tens of thousands of years old. It was formed during the Pleistocene epoch. Dad taught me this too. And it happened when North America was frozen solid, when there were glaciers. Glaciers broke off and they came down. It's glacial scarring. That's why it's a shallow river. And it's evolved. One of the big problems with the Vermilion is Bayou Tartu over by the airport. It bottlenecks there. We have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be simple. And I heard somebody today on Carol Ross's show call in and say, you know, one of the problems with dredging is when you have spoils, that is what you dredge out of the river, it's now classified as hazardous waste. But we have to tackle that problem, folks. We really do. It's going to take money. You know what it's going to take first? The new government, the new council, and the new administration to regain the trust of the public. So it's always been a problem with the Vermilion. Back in the early days, the leaders of Vermilionville and Lafayette, it wasn't Vermilionville for long, it really wasn't, okay? They begged the federal government. Finally, in around 1850, the feds came in and they removed some logs. that were at the bottom of the river. There's still some of those logs there, folks. We need to dredge it. And do many other things. The basics, of course, clean the ditches, clean the coulees, widen them, take care of the erosion problems along the coulee. A tidal river, you understand what that means? When the tides are high in the Gulf, you don't have to have a heavy rain and a flood. When the tides are high, the river flows backwards. It's a tidal river. That's because we're at or below sea level. So it's going to be a challenge. So what do? We do the basics. We clean the ditches, the channels. That's a given. We have to think outside of the box. Do you know what they do in the Netherlands? You know, we complain about how many, does anybody know? I don't know. Throw out a number. How many people died from the flood of 27 in Louisiana? Anybody heard? Carol, you know everything. You don't remember?
No pressure.
Somebody Google it. Okay, get this. 1953. The Netherlands, Rotterdam. 2,000 people died. The North Sea came inland. They live in a very similar geology, geography, topography than we do. What are they doing over there? They're solving a lot of their flooding problems. They create flood basins. It's commonly down here, it's called retention detention. We need to do some of that. There's something called stormwater parks. When things are dry, you can go and walk the dog, or you can play frisbee or baseball. But when the heavy rains come, this stormwater park, the drainage is channeled into there, and it will go into underground tanks. We have to think outside of the box, folks, and it is going to cost millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. We have to start now.
Around 250.
Thank you. 250? Thank you, Sarah. By the way, Sarah's running for City District 1. We may be opponents. We will be civil. And Keith's running for, we don't know what, I think Parish District 4 or one, I'm sorry, 4.
One either way.
One either way. See, there's a lucky man. You know he's number 1.
Roddy is running.
Okay, so we're going to improve drainage. Don't let somebody fool you and make it like you just wave the magic wand and it's a long-term problem. We have to start right now, and it's going to take commitment, and it's going to take the people regaining trust in their government before they're willing to give up another tax. And we need to restructure the property taxes. Remember I told you that? Jared Bellard tried for years, but because he was ostracized, they wouldn't listen to him. And you know, so the cliche, I'm not good at platitudes. We do need to work together as a government, as an administration, and a council, but it's got to be for the right thing. There are things that I do not like with this government. That's why I'm running. Okay, so let's talk about Plan Lafayette and the Unified Development Code. Let me break out my glasses. I'm not going to mention Agenda 21, those of you who don't, I've heard it in the room here, I didn't say it, okay? But sustainability, smart development and sustainability, what is it? I'm going to define it briefly for you. Let me read some quotes. Sustainability came around in 1992, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the Earth Summit. 187 countries signed on. George H.W. Bush, yes, the elder Bush, signed the United States of America on to sustainability. It was a non-binding agreement. Nancy Pelosi, Google it, 1993, floor of the House of Congress. We have to have sustainability and we have to have it now. It's a very complex topic. I can't go deep in the weeds, folks, and I'll confuse you, all right? Here's a quote from the UN Secretary General at the time, 1992. His name is Maurice Strong. He's from Canada. This is a direct quote, verbatim. Current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involving high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and work air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable. This is the basis of sustainability, folks. And it's here, and it's now, and it's part of our Plan Lafayette. And if somebody tries to tell you otherwise, they do not know what they're talking about. And it's going to run up our cost of living. So shortly after sustainability was declared, and Nancy hit the floor of the House of Representatives, President Bill Clinton came in right behind H.W. Bush. He appointed a sustainability advisor. Here is a quote from Mr. Gary Lawrence, advisor to President Clinton on sustainability. Once again, a verbatim quote. Participating in a UN advocating planning process would very likely bring out many of the conspiracy-fixated groups and individuals in our society. So we call our process something else, such as comprehensive planning, growth management, or smart growth. Deception is through and through this stuff, and if they try to tell you otherwise, don't believe them. Okay, let me play the other side. Let me do devil's advocate. Somebody comes up here, and let's say I had somebody to counter what I'm saying. Oh no, Mark, you're incorrect. Plan Lafayette, which is a sustainability plan, was done by public meetings and public hearings. Okay, the public was invited. Folks, this 200-page big government Plan Lafayette, this is $1.2 million. The firm out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Wallace, Roberts, and Todd. We don't need outsiders coming in here to tell us how to model and plan our city. What happened? What happened to our unique individuality and our Cajun ingenuity? And this is pie in the sky, cookie cutter stuff. It's groupthink, it's mindless. Everybody else is doing it. And you know what? When this sustainability thing started, it started in Europe. Guess what? The grief now going on in Europe, they're tired of it. They're tired of the overregulation. They're tired of the cost of living going up. Okay, I'm thinking of the word, I want to say not kickback. Help me out, Josh. What? The people are reacting, and not just in Europe.
You don't want my word.
Yeah.
Blowback.
Thank you, blowback. People are reacting, not just in Europe, Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. People are seeing the useless attempt to create a utopia. That's what this is. What's in here? A carbon tax. Why do you think we have bike paths? To increase recreational biking? No. The idea behind sustainability is we have to change the way we live. And they're going to change it for us if we let them continue on this path. The idea behind bike paths is you've got to get cars off the road. Why do you think they're building structures in the street at a parking meter on Jefferson Street? It's called a parklet. The terminology for sustainability is it's placemaking. It has its own vocabulary, folks. If you don't understand it, I can see some disagreement, and that's okay. We'll find out. If the people want to stay on this path, continue to waste money, we'll have a decision. Let me repeat that. In front of Central Pizza and the Old Garden Hotel, in front of both of those buildings, there is a parklet, a structure in the street. You take away a parking spot. They can say, well, we can increase seating. No, it's to discourage cars and encourage bicycling. Because I told you, it's mindless groupthink. This Plan Lafayette is. Everybody else is doing it. And they're going to keep doing it. Oh, and by the way, there are no building codes per se for those structures. A 100-mile-an-hour hurricane comes through, those structures are blown to kingdom come. They end up blowing through a window. Okay, I'm going to take about another 5, 6, 7 minutes. What else do I have in my show and tell stack? As I told you, the notion of sustainability is complicated. There are 3 components: environment, social, and economic. I can't define them for you. Look it up. Look up sustainability, you will find it. You may have to dig. There is a bias in the media, by the way. Google, if you want anything critical of sustainability, you got to really dig. You got to go to page 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and it's out there. There is a bias in our media, Google included. UL's been doing sustainability for a long time. I'm sure Miss Gretchen Vanacore is a fine person. I do not like what she's pushing. You know, you go to UL now, it's mandatory. You have to take a sustainability class. It's indoctrination, folks. Oh, by the way, I mentioned the carbon tax. Another thing in Plan Lafayette. Use the smart meters on homes in the city of Lafayette to conserve energy. They can control the energy used. I'm not paranoid. It is being done. Oh, by the way, smart meters, we got them in 2010 because the federal government paid 3/4 of it. Smart meters are outlawed in 7 states. Canada is removing them from homes. Why? Because they're not durable. And everybody knows the term, Google it. Google it. There are 7 states in the United States of America that have banned smart meters. They're not durable, and they're suspect in many home fires. I don't mean to scare you, and I'm not. I know Ray, do you have an analog meter?
Yeah.
My brother does. He opted out. You could opt out of the smart meter. We didn't know at the time. But you see, what was seemingly smart at the time, here, a decade later, is suddenly not so smart. So we have to stop wasting our money on unnecessary pet projects, and that's what I want to do in getting on the council. So here's a statement from UL Lafayette's sustainability plan. It's pretty thick. It's pretty thick. Educate, inspire, and foster students' development into change agents who are informed and capable of implementing thoughtful, effective solutions to the environmental, social, and economic challenges we face at the local, national, and global scales. I didn't bring, yes I did bring, I'm not going to read the create thing, Carol. I think I'm running a little low on time. Let's see, let me flip some more cards. So let me kind of start summing up. There's much we need to change in Lafayette. Well, let me think out loud. Somebody says, what is positive? Is there anything positive about this government? We have good utility rates, but there was an attempt to try to take that away from us. We're not given the information we need, folks. We are not given so much goes on that happens behind the scene. One thing I didn't mention, here's how it works with who's confused about the council issue? Bunch of smart people, not too many people confused. I know it, and I've been studying it daily. I could be current city parish District 5 if the charter fix is overturned. As you know, it's in the Supreme Court. It will be heard sometime after July 4th. It could be, they could refuse to hear it, but because there was one dissenting judge in the state appeals court, it will probably be heard.
That was a smart one.
That was a smart one. Yeah, Keith is a plaintiff in the case. So I'm going to use myself as an example. If the current districts stand, I am City Parish District 5. It's Jared Bellard's district. He's termed out. He cannot run. If the charter of fix goes through, 5 new city districts, 5 new parish districts, I become City District 1. City District 1. I am filing, it's like potato, an amicus or an, what's the other pronunciation?
Amicus.
Amicus. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh. It's a different amicus, and there's a second Latin word in there. It means, curiae, thank you. It means friend of the court. Here is my contention. Number one, this council didn't do their due diligence. 4 key players that should have been involved from the get-go on this council split were not involved. They should have said, no, stop the process. Lafayette Parish, registrar of voters. Lafayette Parish, Clerk of Court, Louisiana Secretary of State, and Louisiana Attorney General, call them in and work out the details so we can get this right. They didn't do it right. Haste makes waste. They didn't do it right. So my amicus brief states that, and then I state I do not have adequate time to run a campaign. I'm going to have 2 months to run a campaign. I can't print push cards. I can't print signs. Somebody criticized me on Facebook, called me names, said the big dummy left his district off. Yeah, I did that on purpose because we don't know the outcome. I said, vote Mark Pope, candidate for your city parish district. Oh, what's your? It's my neighborhood. It's the area I live in. It will be my district regardless of if City District 1 or City Parish District 5. I did that on purpose. So I'm asking the Supreme Court, please move the election for council into the year 2020. I need adequate time to run an effective campaign. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'm doing it. So we need to change the government. I am optimistic about our future, but it's qualified. If we continue on down this path, it's not good. I mentioned Plan Lafayette briefly, some of the things in there. I didn't mention the Unified Development Code. Let me do it ever so briefly. The Unified Development Code is twice this. It's 400 pages. It's cookie cutter nonsense. I went to a meeting at the Light Center, the Kathleen Blanco Auditorium, 5 hours. And I don't want to, because it's kind of a derogatory term if I said the bureaucrats. The employees of Lafayette Consolidated Government admitted, yes, it's too rigid. Yes, it's full of problems. Our building and our development code should not be a moving target. That's what they are now. And the ordinance that passed the Unified Development Code states very clearly, this will be the mechanism to implement the action items in Plan Lafayette. It runs up the cost of building. Ask this man here. Here are some examples. Tim Metcalf owns Dino's, the shopping center he built across the street. His building costs were 15% higher. He hired engineers and architects, and he planned out his cost. But when the UDC was entered in, 15% more. When you've got a high-cost building, that's a chunk of change, folks. And this stuff changes day to day, week to week, month to month. We've got to get rid of that. Do we throw out regulations? Of course not. We've got to revisit the Unified Development Code and make it common sense, reasonable regulations. We do not have that now. So those are the things we need to change on the council. I'm very optimistic about our future. I think we do need to change Lafayette, and I'm hoping enough of you are like-minded. I am running for, you heard my districts. If you're in my area, I would greatly appreciate your vote. I would be honored. If I'm not in your district, give my card to somebody who is. I will have a website once my district is finalized. I will have a website. I will have push cards. I will have signs with my district on it. I'm going to run a campaign. I'm going to work my backside off. I always have been. I was hardworking, 27 years as a Lafayette Consolidated Government employee. By the way, I left out one little tidbit. Conservative estimate. I solved problems for 15,000 people. That's not a blown up number. It's a conservative number. So I would appreciate your vote. I'm going to work just as hard or harder as an elected official on the council to make Lafayette, Louisiana, the best place it can be. Thanks for your attention, and I'll take any questions.
If there's a question that you'd like to ask, please come to the mic so we can run it through we have this recorded and later played for YouTube. We put it on YouTube so they have an opportunity to get the information anytime that they want to. You can pass this information on.
So you mentioned a $250 million price tag. Of course, everybody sort of gets cold chills, like how much more money are we gonna have to fork up for this? So I'm sure you have a common sense solution to where the money could come from rather than just raising taxes carte blanche off the bat, right? So, and I know we have surpluses in a lot of areas in the government, and I know maybe you mentioned it tonight or maybe another night about revisiting millages so we can actually make sure that properties are assessed accurately. So when you say that, what do you mean by just more tax money and we're already drained? So what can you say? Thanks.
Thanks for the question. I have done a lot of studying on the various issues. I've not studied the details of the millages. It needs to be done. It's been proposed over the years, but and everything's fine, leave it alone. You know, one thing, for example, is Lafayette Economic Development Authority. Do you remember how many mills they pay, Carol, on there? It's
about 1.648668, something like that. It's
right.
Less than 2 mills.
Less than 2 mills. One mill brings in millions of dollars. We don't get to re-vote on that every 10 years. And, you know, Lita, there's so much that I left out. We've got opportunity zones. That came with the Trump tax cut. So if you like Donald Trump, you know, and we don't like opportunity zones, there's too much wasteful spending out there. We've got cultural districts where other people's money, gimme, 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 to accomplish this pie-in-the-sky notion of a, quote, smart city, changing the way we live. We got to get away from that and those pet projects. So yes, we have to look at our property taxes, Leslie, and we have to look at what other taxes are out there. We have to right-size everything. You know, remember when Joey Durrell got in office and one of his big things was roads, 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 and I said, good. And at the time, there was a lot of faith and confidence in the man. He might have gotten a half, 3/4 of a cent for roads. You know what they did? Let me remind you. They did 1 cent for roads, 1 cent for a new courthouse, and a ½ cent to renovate the current courthouse. And I said, really? And you got Dee Stanley, who's supposed to be a marketing genius, and you're gonna throw this load of bricks on the people? They all failed. I voted yes roads, no courthouse, no to the renovation of the courthouse. You gotta piecemeal it. You gotta regain the confidence of the public. Then you look at your property millages and your other taxes and you restructure things. You do not even consider a tax until you have looked at all the possible options. And that's what I would do very hard as a council member.
Greg Lee, you have a statement or two?
I've got a book. I wish I weren't so bashful. I actually have 2 questions, but I don't want to hog anybody. If anybody else wants to speak, I'll just ask one. Sit down. Number 1, while Mark was working for government, occasionally my trash or recycling was missed, thus a phone call. I can personally verify that every single time this man, not his associate, not his employees, this man always called me back. And I got my recycling and my trash picked up. Isn't that strange? I appreciate it, Mark. By the way, I think you missed your calling. You should be running for parish president. How many hands agree? Mr. Collins, I've known him for a long time, so I can say that. Question number 1. Mark said that we need to improve our city parish council. Let me give you one good reason why. Here's a copy of a resolution passed on February 4th, 2014. That's 5 years ago. Supporting Project Armchair. A resolution, not an ordinance, but a resolution, which don't mean diddly squat, but they passed it, all 9 of them. For the past 5 years, I've been going back to the city council on comments from the public and asking, what happened? Why do you now refuse to answer me why you have shut the project down and will not answer? Guess what I get? Silence. For 5 years I've gotten silence. Do we need improvement in city parish council? I think so. I think this man might get it. Thank you very much.
Let me just comment, Ray, thanks for the question. I think, resolution is either a statement of support or opposition to something. And Ray's right. Don't confuse a resolution with an ordinance. Ordinance has the force of law. So, as your council person, Ray, or any council person, I think Ray has a good idea. Look, he's sitting in a chair with arms. As we get older and we have mobility issues,
Now, wait a minute.
some older folks need.
I'm living in overtime. I'm not old.
They need to be able to push themselves up. Look, I stretch every day, folks. I have some joint issues. I hope and pray that one day that I don't lose my mobility. But Ray's got a good point. I think it would take people taking that project on themselves, a council member, maybe try to start a group. I don't know, make it fun, if you will. You don't, that's not a law type thing. Maybe you go to someone, a good corporate citizen like Ema Hawk. Ema's a good friend. Ema and I went to USL together, and we've been good friends ever since. Ema would take that on. Have you talked to Ema? I will talk to Ema. A good restaurateur needs to take that on, and then it's lead by example, and others see it, and you explain the reasoning behind it. So that's the way I think a project like that needs to be handled, right?
Here's an opportunity to ask the questions and maybe that you always wanted to. You might be able to get the answer especially from the speaker here. Alan? Yes, sir.
I'm not going to get up.
Well, we want to make sure we record you. The only way we can do that because we have a mic there.
You'll hear me.
I'll repeat it, Carol.
You go ahead and repeat it. Okay, go ahead.
Have you any kind of a solution for homeless downtown? I've been in
Mel.
Panhandle several times.
Yes. Mel Lindy asked, do I have solutions for the homeless downtown? And I did think about that just the other day, Mel. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. We know what's happening in California. I'm not going to do shock effect, but I saw a picture, I don't know if it was photoshopped, with a man with his pants down in Los Angeles, California. And there was a caption by it. We don't need that here. The more you look, like somebody said just the other day on your show, Carol, if you hang meat in the woods, don't blame the wolves. I think that we need churches and nonprofit organizations to work together to try to, encourage. I am not heartless. I have compassion. I'm a Christian. That's a really, really tough question, Mel. I think it would take an effort with churches and nonprofits to say, look, let's come together and let's come up with a plan and try to address this. But it is a huge problem, not just in Lafayette, but throughout our country. But it's a very good question, and it needs more scrutiny, and it needs a lot of people talking about it to come up with a good common sense solution.
I don't see anyone coming up.
You go till 7:30?
What?
Can I say something else?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We'd like to have at least
Look,
an hour in this. So-
Carol told me 7:30. I'm gonna use all my time, baby. We're not letting any of that time slide. A question that was asked by a mayor president candidate here. And it's about, I asked the question, so I remember very clearly. And it was about renewable energy. And I stated, why the fixation? Why the fixation? Why are we forcing the round peg in the square hole? In 2018, it was announced by Lafayette Utility System, 20% of our energy would come from renewables. Why? Why? Well, everybody else is doing it. Really? My mama taught me back in the 4th grade, that doesn't fly. That justification doesn't fly. And the other thing, well, it's clean energy. Really? We have clean energy. It's called natural gas. And we have an overabundance of natural gas in the great state of Louisiana. Okay, and then number 3, but it's going down in price. Why are you opposed to progress, Mark? I'm not. We're forcing the round peg in the square hole. You want to read a good book? Dumb Energy. A 10-year-old graduate level physicist has been working with renewable energy for 10 years. Why is it dumb energy? Because of all the things I just told you. It's clean. It's going down in price. Everybody else is doing it. The problem with renewables, you can't store it. You use it in real time or you lose it. The wind doesn't always blow. Trump had a joke about, guess we can't watch TV tonight, honey, the wind's not blowing. The sun doesn't always shine. The more you build up your stock or your portfolio of renewable energy, you have to have a double grid. You have to have a dual power system. One for the renewables and one for the conventional energy. We don't need it. And you know what? I didn't address, it's now down in price. Why? Because the federal government is subsidizing it. When is enough too much? We're $22 trillion in debt. And people act like, oh, what's the big deal? If we don't take it, somebody else will. Really? I consider myself a proud American. Independence Day is coming up. Come on, folks. Your kids and your grandkids are not going to have a bright future if we stay on this course. We got to have a discussion about this. We really do. All you hear is the pie in the sky. Everybody else is doing it. It's come down in price. You never get the other side. And that's what I'm going to do. When I get on the council, I will be the voice of reason and I will bring the other side. If I lose the discussion, then at least I was able to educate the people. The people right now are not being educated.
Come on, please.
660 megawatts to smelt 1 metric ton of steel.
That's what, about 3 pounds?
1 metric ton? No, 200.
So Mark, how do we beat the machine behind, the money machine behind a certain candidate in Lafayette? And how do we change the face of the city council?
Well, I'm going to give some time. Do you want to give your opinion?
I want to hear from you. I'm going to come out of the gates in about 2 or 3 weeks. We have a lot of smart people in this room, a lot of good people. We need to get Mark elected.
Yes.
And look, we need to get off our ass. Seriously.
Yep.
All right. When I told my wife I was going to run for city council, she about divorced me. She said, "We don't see you now." Okay. I said, "But you know what? It's about community service. Do something with your lives when you leave this room. Just don't talk about it. Get behind Mark. I don't care if I win or not. I just want the right people in there."
What district you running for?
I don't know yet.
One or one.
We're the idiots that spent $30,000 suing the city of Lafayette for the right reasons. Okay, because we don't want the council, the hand-picked council, 3 out of 5, controlling $650 million a year. Not 5 out of 9, 3 out of 5. That's the whole purpose of this split. All right? We don't want them controlling that kind of money. And we don't want them going forward, changing the law and doing things by ordinance. That's why we filed the suit. And we're taking it all the way.
And thank you for that.
You know, we knew we weren't going to win at the district level. And we had a prejudiced judge at the district level, the Third Circuit. Okay, so we're hoping to get the fair shake. Saunders has it right. Saunders has it right. He dissented properly. He's the one that looked at the rule of law. So we're fighting, and Mark's on our side, Carol's involved with this. We have good people behind us. We have great people in this room. The whole reason why you're here is because you're concerned citizens. Okay? You got to get behind the right people for everybody in Lafayette. I'm from New York City, you know.
Yeah, he's adopted Cajun.
I came down here in the Marine Corps. It's like, thank you too. My dad probably served with you in Korea and Vietnam. So we need this guy elected. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get him elected. Money is no object, but we have to get the right people out there, and we have to beat this machine. There's a lot of money behind a certain candidate, and it's not pretty. And it's all about controlling this city. We need some of you people in here to step up, run for city council. The mayor's one thing, but the city council is where the power is.
Yep.
That's what controls the city. Don't think it's not. Everybody on that city council, the two good guys, Terrio and Bellard, are termed out.
Yep.
If you look at the records, it's 7-2, 7-2. Everything is 7-2, no matter what it is. Whether it's, I don't even want to get into the drag queen stuff, but anyway.
Thank you.
Get this guy elected.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Keith. The answer is hard work. How do we defeat the machine? I don't know. Lafayette is a very, very, very political place. Cronyism. The cronyism right now, out of control. Out of control. I think we do it with hard work, truth, honesty, and a lot of prayers. That's what it's going to take. I'm going to work my backside off. And I know you have to be careful. I meant to say that up front, folks, when I started. My problem is, and I'm going to say it and then I'll explain it. I know too much. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. Do I know, am I a know-it-all? Do I know everything? Not no, hell no. If you say that, you're a fool. I know too much, and I want you to know it. I believe in truth. I saw some faces tonight. Not everybody agrees with me. But you know what? I would welcome a debate with those people. Let's have a debate about science and about these wasteful, unnecessary projects. Nobody wants to do that. It's all fluff and stuff. So once the people start to learn people don't have a clue what's going on, folks. People don't know about Plan Lafayette. They don't know about the government overreach behind the Unified Development Code. The cost, the unnecessary cost. And that's what I'm going to do. Keith, you got to quit saying that. I don't care if I win. I care if you win. I mean, so I don't, and it may be a slow thing. A lot of what we're dealing with now, deep state bureaucrats, folks, in Lafayette, Louisiana. They're not just in Washington, D.C. They lurk in Lafayette, Louisiana, he says with a smile. I worked with him. I was in meetings with him. Deception. I don't want to overstate that. Let me say that more calmly. There was some deception. I'm telling you. Oh, let me tell you a final story, I promise. Final story. I think Ray has a question. So you remember I told you they will say, oh, no. We Plan Lafayette, that was passed with public hearings. Wallace, Roberts, and Todd, the experts in deception and duplicity, they led the meetings. So this conservative lady stands up, raises her hand, yes ma'am, says the trained facilitator, trained to lead you down a path to make you believe that this plan is your plan, it's your idea. The question was, this is a mighty ambitious plan. How much does all of this cost us? The trained facilitator's response, oh no ma'am, we're not talking about that now, we're dreaming. We're dreaming. I'm dreaming about good roads, no structurally deficient bridges, and a whole lot less flooding. That's a smart city. This stuff is, I'll say it again, what happened to our unique individuality and Cajun ingenuity? This stuff is not it. Doesn't fit the bill.
I don't know why you people let me monopolize the questions just about every time. But dadburn it, if I can't ask questions at 86, when will I be able to? I have a solution to a couple of problems that we have here in Lafayette. I want your opinion. The question tonight was mentioned, the subject about the homeless in Lafayette. I can solve that. I can solve the problem of 20% of the kids in this town going to bed hungry every night. I can solve it. You want to know how I can solve it? Right here, the Holy Bible. Do you have any idea how much money we're spending each year for the illegal immigrants going down to the border and so forth, and in here in the state and in this nation? Billions of dollars. There's a certain party, I won't mention the name, that seems to love sending billions of dollars down to these individuals. But the Bible can save that situation. Listen to this. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8. But if anyone does not provide for his own, that's us, our families, our neighbors, for his own, and especially for those of his own household, common sense tells his own means all of us, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever, an infidel, an unbeliever. If we spent the money here in Lafayette for the homeless and for the hungry kids and the disabled veterans, we wouldn't have the problem, would we? Pass it around. 1 Timothy 5:8. And that's my newest project. Thank you.
I think Joyce. Joyce, the last question.
It's not a question. It's a statement about the comprehensive plan, of which many of us did oppose very strongly, and we were defeated. On the corner of Beadle and Wentworth, there's a single home dwelling. This is being redistrict, whatever, where you can build 7 condos and 2 individual homes. So one lot previously will become for 9. The neighbors were up in arms. I'm on a neighborhood chat. I got involved in it. I said, you can scream and cry. You can do whatever you want, because they were trying to be nice. I said, the time for nice is past. You have to really stand up and oppose these people, because they're not going to hear you. They have not heard them. The thing is going through. They said they did get a couple of more parking places. This is on a corner. A single family home in the past, 7 condos, 2 individual homes. Where are they going to park? It's stack them and pack them. I don't understand people who love Lafayette and they go to wherever, South Carolina, Austin, Ohio. They come back. We love Lafayette, but we want to change it. I don't get that. I loved Lafayette when I moved here. Now all I see is roads and traffic, bad roads, right, Carol?
Yes.
I got a blowout the other day. Bad roads, heavy traffic. I don't know who authorized or gave the permit for the Champion or across from the Doubletree. Massive complex, they call it student housing. Go down there and look at that. What's going to happen to Pinhook? We can't drive down it now without scraping the sides of a car, hardly. Have y'all seen it? How many of you seen it? It's massive, it's ugly, it's not pretty, and it's going to kill Pinhook. We're all trying to figure out another way to avoid it. It's called the Comprehensive Plan and Unified Development Code.
Thank you. Don't get nervous, I'm not gonna ask you that.
I'm done. Thank you, Carol. I know we went a few minutes past. I really appreciate y'all being here. I think I gave pretty much everybody a card. Are there still some on the table, Ella? Get a card. If you have a question, call me. I'll be glad. I may not answer, but I will call you back ASAP. I want to serve you. I want to be your voice. Let's go out and improve Lafayette, as Ray says. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your presentation. Any other questions before we close up? I'd like to just announce our next speaker. The ladies there are more women running for office, and this is a lady that's running for the District 43, I believe it is. Yeah, District 43. But anyhow, I just want to let Leslie Bourke is her name, and in 2 weeks from tonight, she'll be our guest speaker. Thank y'all for being here this evening.